So let's get into it. Call of Duty Modern Warfare versus the Battlefield franchise. Now, many of you will have probably played the Call of Duty Modern Warfare beta. Maybe you got on there a little bit earlier if you had a code, or if you were waiting for the open beta, I hope you had enough time to play it for a few days. Now, for me, Call of Duty is something I haven't touched for 5 or 6 years. I used to play it a fair bit on the console, but I then moved over to Battlefield and I haven't looked back. Call of Duty is a game that repeatedly brings out new titles every year, and it always has something fresh for you to get your teeth into. But if you're like me and you kind of got bored of that arcadey, fast-paced, infantry-focused gameplay in these 6v6 modes, maybe Battlefield has been a game that you've been playing instead. Battlefield is renowned for these massive all-out war moments with 32 versus 32 Conquest modes, and then of course you have Rush, Frontlines, Grind, all of these other modes that are definitely a lot of fun to play. This, however, was going to be challenged, with Call of Duty Modern Warfare producing a big hit to the Battlefield franchise with Ground War, a massive all-out war Conquest style mode with vehicles, infantry, and of course a large map. Something that Call of Duty has dabbled with, I suppose, with Blackout, the Battle Royale mode, with it being a larger map, but really something that they haven't done a whole lot of before. With Battlefield 5 being such a disappointment, and in fact getting worse as time goes on, Call of Duty has tried to step on Battlefield's toes and take away some of the players from the player base. Now, if you're looking for a short answer to the question, is Call of Duty Modern Warfare going to take out Battlefield? The answer is no. Yes, it's something interesting to play, and it's something a little bit different, but for the most part, Battlefield fans probably haven't enjoyed it as much as they thought they would, and it's certainly nothing compared to Battlefield 3 Conquest, let's take as an example. It's just not the same thing. The vehicles are really not anywhere near what you'd expect from a Battlefield game, and whilst the infantry is definitely fun, and of course there are bugs, it's a beta, there are things that they'll definitely balance and change, it's always going to be a Call of Duty experience, and definitely not a Battlefield experience. The only thing that I can say is definitely a problem for EA and DICE is the fact that Battlefield 5 is such a disaster. So whether or not Call of Duty Modern Warfare is a Battlefield style game, people are definitely looking elsewhere to play video games. I'm not going to sit here and put up with Battlefield 5 in the state it's in. Yes, I might play a few hours a week, but I'm definitely not going to be playing that as my only game. I'm looking elsewhere. And once you have a taste for Call of Duty, assuming that they fix all of the bugs that they've had in the beta, maybe it's a game that you'll move over to and stick with, instead of coming back and playing Battlefield 5, a game that's really not hitting the right standard. Just take a look at Battlefield 3 alongside Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and I'll play the clips back to back. What do you think does a better job of this all-out war? Just listen to it. Take into account everything that's happening. Is Call of Duty really emulating that Battlefield experience in this Modern Warfare setting, or is it not really something that you think they've achieved very well? A few things that I feel Ground War didn't really do that well. Firstly, you've got the kill streaks. Yes, it's a staple to Call of Duty, some might say, but imagine playing Battlefield 5 Conquest where everybody has access to UAVs and choppers and all of this stuff. It's a bit much. I think Battlefield 5 combated this with the squad leader having a call-in, which was something new for the Battlefield franchise. For that reason alone, I do feel as if kill streaks could work to some extent in ground war, but having them where everybody has access to them is a bit much, and maybe having it where maybe 1 or 2 people could have access to it might be better, or removing them altogether. That's something that they'll definitely look to balance. Level design is something else that definitely plagues ground war. It's so difficult to get a map that works with 32 versus 32 players. We've seen this before in Battlefield. There are some maps that just don't work well for Conquest, and that's been seen in Battlefield 1, Battlefield 5. You've even seen it in Battlefield 3 and 4, where some maps are just an absolute cluster, and it's not the good sort of cluster like you see in Metro or Locker. It's just something that's not fun at all to play. So I feel as if that's a bit of a learning curve for the guys over at Call of Duty, because they've never created something quite like this before. Maybe they can alter a few things before release, but in my opinion, Call of Duty is always something that is going to thrive with those smaller modes, especially 6v6, where it gets it so spot on in terms of fast-paced action infantry gameplay. The time to kill is questionable in my opinion. It's very quick, and I know Call of Duty often has a fast time to kill, but I do feel, even after watching a lot of the best players play the game, which kind of gives you a good indication of what they feel, the time to kill is just super quick. It doesn't give you a lot of time to react. It's very unforgiving, almost like a hardcore Call of Duty. Maybe you enjoy that experience, but personally I feel it might benefit from a slightly longer time to kill. And one of the biggest issues that, it's funny really, because it's not only in Call of Duty but it's also in Battlefield, it's the visibility. Recently games have started to incorporate this realism and immersion, words that I really don't like being thrown around with an FPS game. And you see rooms and windows and doorways that are pitch black, and enemies can be hiding in there, and they're just sitting, camping, holding an angle, whatever. That's always going to be a part of an FPS game, but you can't see them, and there's no way to see them until you go through the doorway. And maybe in real life that's what it would look like, but in an FPS game you can't have that. It's never been something people have enjoyed. The only person that benefits from this is somebody camping inside a building, which will lead in turn to more campers. And in Call of Duty especially, campers is a bit of an issue. I say in Call of Duty, it's a massive issue in Battlefield, and it leads to this more stagnant gameplay, and it's a bit boring and very frustrating to play. They will fix that, I'm sure. I'm sure they'll take into account a couple of the other issues with TTK, bugs, and all of that other stuff. That in itself might be enough to push this game towards being more of a Battlefield killer, but overall my opinion still stands. It's not doing enough, especially ground war, to challenge Battlefield. Quite a few people have been complaining about the netcode in Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Is this something related to them doing testing because it's a beta? Is it just an issue because of a 32 versus 32 mode where a lot more's going on and a lot more stress is being placed on the server? I'm not sure. We've clearly seen in Battlefield in the past netcode issues attached to pretty much every single game in the franchise. Call of Duty are almost certainly going to struggle with similar problems. They've also moved away from hitscan to a bullet travel system, where you've got bullets spending time in the air before they hit their target, so there's obviously a lot more going on there than a simple hitscan system. This is again going to be causing more issues, and they've got this beta here for a reason. It's not the finished product, and hopefully if they do improve the game, it will iron out a lot of these bugs before it releases. One of the biggest issues that I take away from this entire experience is, and I hate to go back to it, but it's the state of Battlefield. I shouldn't have to be leaving the Battlefield franchise looking for other experiences to get my Battlefield fix. I shouldn't have to be looking towards World War III, a game that I really thought would do more than it did, or Call of Duty to provide me with a big 32 versus 32 Conquest mode. This is Battlefield. It has done it so well in the past, and it should be doing it so well into the future. It's not something I enjoy doing, looking towards other games. And this got me thinking, and you've seen in previous videos, how to create the perfect Battlefield game. And they're not that far off, really, if you think about it. Battlefield 3 is renowned as a pretty much perfect Battlefield game. Yes, it's aged a little bit over time, and there are a few things I'd like to change if it was to be remade. But it's still a great game, and it's miles ahead of Battlefield 5. BF4 had its problems on release, but still a brilliant game in terms of an all-out war Battlefield game. So many vehicles, all of which are fun to play. Massive maps, absolutely huge some of the maps in BF4. And again, Battlefield 1, It might not be to everybody's taste, but it's still a very polished game with a lot of fun to be had. Battlefield 5 doesn't really build on any of that stuff, but it still does all-out war better than Call of Duty Modern Warfare does. So I really think DICE have to take this opportunity to build the next game to be the best Battlefield we've seen in a while. It's not easy, but they have to, because clearly the audience is moving, looking for other games to play, and looking to fill that void that DICE have left. Now you have to realise that I'm not complaining about Call of Duty not feeling like Battlefield. I understand it's its own thing, and Call of Duty fans who might be watching this video might love Modern Warfare, and that's fantastic. I really hope that Modern Warfare is going to be a great addition to the Call of Duty franchise. But you have to realise that there have been a lot of debates recently, and it's not something I've covered on this channel too much, regarding Call of Duty targeting Battlefield. They're trying to take that corner of the market with this 32 versus 32 mode. That is what Ground War's all about. It's no coincidence it's the same player count as Battlefield's mode, with a similar system to Conquest, vehicles, infantry, and they've brought it out as Battlefield 5 is struggling. It can be looked at as a direct comparison and a threat to the franchise, so people do have to realise that. The game does look very nice. This is Call of Duty, Modern Warfare I'm talking about. It is a pretty game compared to some other Call of Duty games, but it still has that Call of Duty feel. I don't think you'll ever really replace that. Call of Duty is always going to be something that's a little bit arcadey. I don't know if that's the right word. It's not so much cartoony, but it's just that Call of Duty feel, whilst Battlefield also has its own feel. Although this one, overall, is definitely more Battlefield, I think, than other Call of Duties in the past. It's a pretty game. The guns, especially, are what stand out to me. The gun sounds, the animations are crisp. Overall, it is a nice game. It's definitely something that you'd enjoy playing, enjoy looking at. But again, with those bugs on top, especially with it being a beta, it's difficult to get that full understanding of what the potential of this game could really be. So let me know what you think of this down in the comments. It's obviously not a full in-depth review of Call of Duty Modern Warfare. It's in the beta stage. I can't really give my opinions on it without having played the full game. And overall, I feel as if it's more a Call of Duty player's job to tell me how good Call of Duty is, as I'm not somebody who's really played the games extensively for quite a few years. The biggest upsetting factor for me is that many Battlefield players are looking to Call of Duty for the first time in a long time to get their Battlefield fix. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.